Communities being developed that are more modern with higher level amenities, and clients need to reposition to stay competitive with these newer offerings in the market. When RDL embarks on a new master plan, we take a very structured approach, getting to know the client, the building, and the systems that are in place.
During the master planning process, we're reimagining existing spaces so that they can be utilized in a more effective manner.
Unit mix often gets redefined as part of the repositioning to kind of right size the independent living, assisted living, and nursing units within that full continuum.
From the beginning of the project, we're going to program with the client to understand not only what they want to add to the community, but also what the overall vision is for the aesthetic. Our ultimate goal is to blur the lines between the existing and the new buildings. A great example of how we married the old and new at Western Reserve Masonic Community is that transition between the existing independent residential corridor into the brand new IL Commons building. It's a seamless aesthetic between one building to the other. The value that RDL brings in having an in-house interior design studio is that very natural collaboration between the architecture studio and the interior design team right from the beginning. So at any moment in time, if a design issue arises, we can all look at the drawings and problem solve on the spot in a very collaborative manner so that ideas are bounced off one another to come up with the most effective solution. To learn more about RDL Architects, click the link below.